Hi, my name's Paul Grogan and welcome to part 2 of our Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion time-lapse video series. In part 1 we played through scenario 1 and this is part 2. So this is scenario number 2. In fact we played scenario 2 straight after scenario 1, but I'm splitting these as separate videos. So scenario 2 progresses from scenario 1 story-wise, but also the rules change. So what I mentioned in the previous one is that the first few scenarios of this campaign will basically drip feed you the rules of the game. So scenario 1 is very simple. Scenario 2 introduces so you get 2 new cards, which replace your previous cards, and it introduces some extra rules for you to take into account. So in the first scenario, for example, you couldn't throw a card away to remove damage. So that's one of the things. Anyway, scenario 2, we're progressing here. I'm not going to give too much away in the way of spoilers, although if you are looking at the board, you're probably going to see a little bit. I'm trying to avoid spoilers for 1 and 2, but let me know what you think, because when I go to scenario 3, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. So I probably do need to talk a little bit about the scenario, but I'm going to keep these 2 spoiler free. And just talk about the game and basically how it works. So the other thing that you may have noticed from part 1 is there isn't any map tiles on the board, okay? Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion comes with a scenario book. So you can see that right in the middle of the table. It is a ring-bound book, and what you do is you open that up and you put it on the table, and there it is. There is your map. Now, there are many advantages to this. First of all, it saves setup time. You don't have to go hunting around for exactly the right map tiles and put them on the board. The other advantage is that the scenario board and the map and the artwork is all customized for the particular scenario. So the graphic designer and the artist have got complete free reign as to what they do with it and can really customize it. The disadvantage, so you might think, oh, the disadvantage is the maps are always going to be small. Well, you'll see in scenario 3 that there is a supplemental scenario book, which is basically, it adds on. So for the scenarios where the map is a little bit bigger, you know, there is an extra book. You'll see that in the next scenario. The other slight disadvantage is because the monsters are printed on the board, that tells you where the monsters start the game. But of course, when the monster moves off that space, you still see the icon on the board. I thought that was going to be a problem. It isn't really that much of a problem in the game. So they've done a really good job at making it so that it isn't actually that intrusive. And what's happening in this scenario? Yeah, this scenario has a door. So you see right in the middle of the board, there is a door. Now, the way that you represent the door is open. You see that there's a little token on that space. That means that door is now open. And there wasn't a door in the previous scenario. There's also obstacles, and the obstacles in the game, certainly my character, I'm the demolitionist. You might expect that I'm basically going around and blowing stuff up, which I am. I'm destroying a lot of obstacles. And in the Gloomhaven game, that obstacle would be an extra tile that you would put on the board. And when you destroyed it, you'd remove it from the board. The obstacle is pre-printed on the map. So what you do is you actually take one of the destruction tokens. I think it's called the destruction token. Anyway, you take that token and you put it over the obstacle to say that this obstacle is no longer there. So yeah, we played this scenario last night. I'm recording this audio the day after. And yeah, it was another light introduction. It took a little bit longer to play. And you may have noticed in the previous scenario, there weren't any monster ability cards. So in the previous game, in scenario 1, the monsters went on a fixed initiative value of 50 and they just moved and they attacked. They didn't do anything special whatsoever. It was always initiative 50, move their normal amount, attack for their normal amount. This scenario introduces 4 basic cards, and not the normal 8 that you would choose, but 4 basic ones for that character, for that particular type of monster. And I think in scenario 3, I think they go. I think we introduced the full rules for the monsters. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. That is the end of scenario 2. So as I said, let me know if you found these videos useful. I certainly can't spend the rest of the videos carry on talking about the game because I've pretty much covered most of it already. But what I can do is I can actually start explaining a little bit about the story from the 3rd video. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you like these videos, if there's anything about them that you want me to change, and if you're okay with there being spoilers. If I do go down the spoiler route and I start explaining about the story, then what I will do is I will obviously put a big spoiler disclaimer at the start of the video to say, look, I'm actually going to talk about the scenario. But for now, I've kept these first 2 spoiler free and just giving you an overview of the game. Really enjoying it. Going to be playing more. There are 25 scenarios included in the game. but I've been told that the scenario, it is a non-linear storyline, which is great. It's a branching storyline, so you won't do all 25 scenarios. In order to complete the campaign, you will not do all 25 scenarios. Now, that's quite good because there's 4 characters included in the game. We're playing 2 characters each. It does mean that we could then play through the campaign again using the other 2 characters and choose a different route through the story. I mean, you can always just play these scenarios anyway, just as a one-off. Yeah, it's not that you get to the end of the campaign, oh, the content we didn't see. You can just go back and play them. So what you're seeing here is the end of scenario 2. Just before we move into scenario 3, the shop opens. So in scenarios 1 and 2, you don't have any items. In fact, in scenario 1, you don't even collect gold. Scenario 2, you collect a lot of gold. And one little thing that I will just tell you now quickly is at the end of scenario 2, because this isn't really a spoiler about the scenario, but it's what we did. I used something which I've learned from playing the Gloomhaven digital game, because in Gloomhaven, any gold that is left on the board at the end of the game, you don't get. You don't automatically collect it. You have to actually spend your time within the scenario to collect the gold. So at the end of this scenario, we had 1 bad guy left, we had 1 monster left, and I was pretty sure that we were going to succeed. So what we actually did is we actually avoided hitting the monster. It is metagaming the game a little bit. We avoided hitting the monster, kept it alive a couple of turns, and that allowed us to run around the board, collect some more gold, and then we finished the monster off. It was pretty close because actually we got down to our last 2 cards. We cut it a little bit too fine, and if Vicky had drawn her null on that last attack against the last monster, we would have actually failed the scenario. Because if you run out of cards, you're exhausted, and then it doesn't work. But anyway, we collected every single little bit of gold that we could in the scenario, which should be an achievement, should definitely be an achievement. And then you get to spend your money at the shop. So I've bought myself a couple of items, Vicky's bought an item, and we're all ready to start scenario 3 that I hope we'll play next week. Anyway, as I say, if you've enjoyed this video, leave a comment in the show notes. And as mentioned in scenario 1, this is not a sponsored video. This has been created purely through the support of my Patreon campaign. So if you enjoy the content that I make and you want to help support the channel, please consider supporting me at patreon.com/gamingrules. Until next time, take care and thanks for watching. Gaming Rules is proudly sponsored by Game Toppers, upgrading your gaming experience. Visit GameToppersLLC.com.